second.
Riles a righty.
Did he bring my drink over?
Yeah, I can bring it.
The other line's all nice. I guess
Yes. Okay. Guys?
Yeah.
Guys? Do we have a time check? We have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I have 2 minutes. It's Opelika time. You can go see yourself on Tuesday night. You can see you guys. We run this on YouTube now on Tuesday night on the YouTube channel. Gets a lot of views, so you can watch yourself, see how you sound. Have a little viewer party at the house. You know what I mean? Family in there.
You ever heard of Leo Thomas? Like why he did what he did?
Who's that? What is it?
Leo Thomas from Mississippi got suspended.
For what?
He speared someone in the face.
In the face? He speared him in the face?
Oh, really? That's what's spreading it to everybody. What's going on?
I was like, Thomas spearing somebody in the face?
I've told literally everybody.
9 games, did something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was first spearing?
Yeah.
Well, then he must have gutted him. I bet you he gutted him good. You know what I mean? Like when the guy's like, when his freaking spleen is an issue, you know what I mean? Or, God, 9 games. That's almost unheard of in this league.
He got
You see the one that punched Matt?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my rookie right there.
Thomas got 20 games?
He went after fans.
Oh, well, anytime you do that. Do you remember Sean Oh, no, you don't remember Sean. You remember Sean McCausey? No, you don't remember Sean McCausey. We lost the game and he got pissed. He didn't mean to do it, and I know he was trying to hit the net. And he just, like, we lost in overtime, we lost the game, a guy beat him, went by him and scored, right? He just got his stick and he was just, it wasn't like he threw it in the thing like a million miles. He just got it, kind of just heaved it, trying to get the net. It missed, went into the stand, it hits a lady. He got 18 games from the ECHL. 18 games. And like I said, it wasn't like he meant to throw it in the stands. It wasn't like pissed off. It was at our rink. It was at our home, in our home thing, but the stick came in, and then the lady's husband made it. She had like a little mark. You would have thought she was disfigured for the rest of her life. She worked Phil, he worked Phil, and Phil was trying to. And then at the time, Mrs. Morrow just like wrote a check. You know what I mean? Like one of those. No, she was just like the Morrows were like they didn't need it. You know what I mean? They had money. When you got money, you don't need it. Oh, you would have got 20 games for that.
Get a year probably.
Garbs, I bet you Garbs would have got suspended for the year. Garbs had the guy over the chair backwards and was just teeing off on the guy. You remember when O'Reilly and McNabb and Milbury went into the New York stands? They took the guy's shoe off. It was about as close as that, but it was Dougie. Garbs just jumped in the stand, went in there. It was like, and Breeze was walking to like Frankenstein amongst the fucking like.
What happened? Why you guys going like what happened?
Dumped the beard on Mick.
Yeah.
Let's get the climb back on the road, boys.
Oh man, that's awesome.
2, 3. All right, everybody. Good evening and welcome to TGI Fridays. It's the head coach Jerome Boom Boom Bouchard hockey radio show. Filling in for head coach Boom Boom Bouchard is Brad Prefontaine, our assistant coach, and our player guest, the captain, Kyle Johnson, as well as Andy Williger.
Hello.
Joining us as well, and Barney Slayton is always right here, our director of fun. And a momentous occasion, ladies and gentlemen. Much like last year, the Snakes off to a slow start, however, a little bit different than last year, if we can think about it. Some tough luck on the overtime losses, so to speak. And so it wasn't that generally not picking up anything. There was some points picked up by the Snakes. But last night, coming off a great win in Macon, you can't ask for any better than that. Macon kind of had the opportunity to get advantage on us earlier on in the year. But then when it comes down to it, able to go to their barn barn for your visit and slammed their door in the finger last night in a shootout. Listened to a lot of the game on opelika.radio.com last night, and Coach, it was one of those games, a very close game. Macon took the lead, but saw you guys kind of claw your way back in the third period. Let's talk about the preparations to the game, and of course, games that we had previously on Friday night. It was a weird weekend when you have a Friday Sunday game and have that Saturday night off. But talk about the first game coming up on the game we'll talk about first, Friday, November 13th, a 6-4 loss in Huntsville.
Check. There we go. Friday night, it was, anytime we go into Huntsville and playing the Havoc, obviously big rivals, and every game we play against them seems to be either a very close hockey game or a war, and it was kind of a combination of both the other night. Plenty of goals, plenty of fights, but we were in it for the most part. I thought we outplayed them, but they managed to score a few greasy goals, which was the difference, and with us not being able to capitalize on our power play, that put us behind the 8 ball from pretty much the second period on.
Yeah, I mean, Huntsville, talk about Huntsville more or less. I know that they have a couple of our players over there, Will Aid and McPherson, that went over there. And, of course, when you look at Huntsville, they didn't have the season they would have liked to last year. I mean, as many games as they lost by a goal, but out of the playoffs. But do you feel that Huntsville's a little bit re-energized themselves this year? I mean, coming off the awful season, Tulio's got to realize that, he's got to get his guys moving, or, that contract that he had is not going to last forever. I mean, but talk about what you think about Huntsville and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, he put together a pretty decent hockey club. They're definitely a lot bigger this year, more physical, and bringing in a guy like Brett Lutz, as much as we hate the guy as a player, he's effective out there. He's a leader. He's a veteran player. He goes to the hard areas. He scores the big goals. So they're, from what we've seen this year so far, they're going to be tough to play against every night, and we got to be ready to match up with their physicality every time we play them.
It's a big weekend, too, football-wise, but they've been seeming, the one thing I'll have to tip my hat for Huntsville, they've done a great job in their attendance. Another 4,000 that saw them on a Friday before a football, football matchup. You had Alabama playing, obviously, a game, as well as Auburn that was entertaining Georgia. A lot of those folks are Auburn and Alabama fans, but the crowds in Huntsville have been rather well, and they've done a great job in the attendance. Is it kind of tough to play in that barn? Kyle, I mean, you or Andy, let's go to Andy, I guess. We'll allow Kyle to go ahead and...
Actually, Huntsville's probably my favorite rink to play in besides our own. It's well lit, lots of energy in there. The fans, you can really feed off them, regardless if they're your own or not. It's
special.
loud.
He's not going to steal them games, but he'll hold them in there for as long as he can. And anytime the old adage is, anytime you score 4 goals or more a game, you should win the hockey game. And unfortunately for us, that wasn't the case Friday night. They managed to score more than we did. So at the end of the day, they win the game.
They were 1 for 3 on the power play. That's Huntsville. Once again, Columbus 1 for 7 on the power play. As an assistant coach, and I know that you tend to be a little bit more on the defensive side of things, with the D-men and so to speak. But that power play of us, talk about it, guys. I mean, do you feel that we're at the cusp of being able to accomplish something with it?
Yeah, actually, last night in Macon, we kind of made some, minor changes that I think are really going to catch on here. We had some good opportunities to score. It's obviously no secret, it's getting the puck on net with traffic, and we've got a couple guys now that are willing to stand in front of the net. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction as far as the power play goes.
I think earlier in the season we have so many new players from different teams. We have a lot of guys coming from like all sorts of different systems and stuff, so it takes a while for everybody to get on the same page. But like Willie said yesterday, we took some good steps forward with just getting the puck to the net, kind of keeping it simple. And when everybody starts to figure out the skeleton, the base that we provide, we can kind of do our own thing after that, but we have to do what we're told first, and it took us a little while to get there.
PK numbers are in a good position for our penalty kill, so we've been doing a good job in that for the most part.
Yeah, we run a pretty aggressive penalty kill, so it's pretty tough for most teams to get the puck past us, but we do a thing where as soon as they bobble the puck once, all three guys will just charge, kind of not mindlessly, but just give them absolutely no time and no space to set up, so it doesn't really matter who you are. It's pretty tough to play against that.
Well, the Snakes, unfortunately, after dropping one Tuesday in front of the school kids, Friday lose 6-4 in Huntsville. You guys have Saturday off. It's kind of a weird deal. Describe what did you guys skate it all on Saturday? Did you guys have an optional, or did you just get the night off, day off?
We got home from the road trip, and we did video at about 5 a.m. and then we had the rest of Saturday off. But it was pretty nice just to get the day off, kind of forget about hockey, clear your mind, and we were able to come in on Sunday and really focus.
I know that generally you're in the condition of kind of playing night games. You had a 10 o'clock in the morning game on Tuesday. You have the Saturday night to more or less rest, but then you've got to travel this Sunday, and do the afternoon, the matinee game in Macon. How was the body clock for you guys as players?
Actually, the 10 a.m. game's not as difficult as you would think. That's when we practice every day, so we're definitely used to being, on the ice and focused. Obviously, it is a little different. Your, competitive juices need to be flowing a little more maybe than a Tuesday morning practice. But I thought we came out and we weren't flat. We were giving it to Macon pretty good. Just again, didn't get the bounces.
And the only reason I say that, and Brad, you were a player, and in the afternoons you get kind of on the weekends, generally 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is virtually almost you're just taking that nap after a lunch, and and then but here you are, you're basically getting to the Macon Coliseum, at 1 o'clock, whatever it may be, get your sticks ready and going. By the time that you normally, like I say, having a little snooze around, you're out there trying to pump yourself up. Not a hard thing to get through, guys? Do you find it at times a little bit difficult on those afternoon games?
Maybe a little bit, but to be honest, not really. You do the warm-ups that we do really get you going, and regardless of what time of day it is. We play soccer game outside and stuff like that, so it's not like we're just sitting there waiting. It's really not that difficult, to be honest.
And I did talk to the referee last night a little bit, get to saw him after the game, and he kind of described, after listening to the game and talking to him, he said that it not very physical game. I guess Macon was coming 3-on-3, coming off a 3-on-3. You guys didn't have that basically going on, but physical-wise, you guys, are we kind of, Macon is what it is. It's a rivalry that is of years past, and unfortunately, Brad Prefontaine's the only guy that, and Jerome Bouchard was the only guys that have been accustomed to that rivalry. Is it tough for you guys to make Macon a rivalry, has nothing happened yet where there's any of that kind of that hatred or whatever? Because I think that their players have been told that this is what it is, and you guys have been told. But it's one thing to be told, and another thing to actually feel it. I think Knoxville tends to be, for Kyle Johnson and Andy Williger, guys have been around. That's maybe a little bit more of a rivalry than what Macon is coming in. Talk about how it is for them. And the game wasn't that physical last time. It was pretty much a wide open game.
To be honest, it's kind of tough to just force a rivalry on two teams. Something's got to happen for it to make you really want to kill them, kind of thing. Earlier in the year, Simchuk had kind of a dirty hit on one of their players, but they didn't even do anything about it. For the most part, their team's just a hard-working, kind of keep your nose down, not too much after the whistle team. I actually, like you said, I hate Knoxville, and I don't really like playing Huntsville either. I think those are bigger rivalries for us than Macon, for sure.
Brief, you as a coach, you try to get that going to those guys, or are you just kind of waiting and letting it go the way it is to get the the blood going, to try to get the rivalry going, the physical game with Macon?
Like Kyle said, you can't force stuff like that. I'm sure you play them a couple more times, and that hatred will start getting developed by the players. But right now, they're just kind of feeling each other out. There are a lot of fresh faces there, a lot of fresh faces here. So there's still guys that are let's say competing for jobs, if you will. Because right now nobody's rosters are set in stone this time of year. So once guys get a little more comfortable and they get a little more familiar with each other from an opponent type of basis, then you'll start to see a little more intensity, and maybe we'll get a little dirtier out there.
Well, for the most part, Snakes trailed in the game up until the third period. Then you get a goal by Ryle, and then you guys tie the game up. Goes down to the wire. It seemed to me, and it will happen to us as well as it happened to Macon, that listening to the game and kind of following it, their 3 games in 3 nights, and you having the 1 game on Friday, the bit of a rest on Saturday, and then to be able to come back out, on a Sunday afternoon and play. That the third period you guys kind of owned. I mean, did you notice that they might have been a bit gassed, or tired because of their third period, and you guys were down by a goal, so you're pressing and they're chasing, and describe that.
I mean, that was our thought process at the start of the game. We knew coming in that it was their 3rd game in 3 nights, so we were just going to try and get their D-men to have to turn around and get a lot of pucks and go to work. In the second period, I think we kind of got away from that, but in the first and then back in the third, we were really, at the last 5 minutes of the third, we were kind of on our heels a bit, but other than that, we were pretty solid on making their defensemen work and keeping the puck in their zone.
And, it goes down to get the tying goal in the third period. Had to feel good with that. But you have the overtime period. I'm just curious, guys. I know anything. There's a hole on the golf course that I play at, hole number 8. No matter what I do, I can take a driver or a pitching wedge. I'm still going to end up bogeying a double bogey. The hole's got me it's in my head. Overtimes have been not necessarily kind to the Snake this season. Obviously, the OTLs, no wins up until that point, but 4 opportunities there. Anybody gripping their sticks tight, or did you feel going into this overtime period that they weren't going to score? You might not score, but they weren't going to win the game in the overtime. How did you feel?
Andy Williger was gripping his stick pretty tight. That's for sure. He had Andy had on the doorstep, nobody around him. He had the puck on his stick, and actually the goalie was kind of flopping around on the ground. And if he would have just kind of stood back, maybe a stride or 2, and went shelf, he would have won the game for us. But he was gripping his stick pretty tight. Ended up putting his chest once, twice, and he had a chance to win it for us. That was probably our best chance in OT, and they came down a few times on us. Sean Skilly had a breakaway where Jags ended up stifling him, so it was pretty much end-to-end wide open, and I think they outchanced us a little bit in OT.
Andy, you want to go ahead and respond to that? I know that you have the opportunity to score. I mean, I didn't see it, I listened, but talk about it, will you?
Yeah, really nice play by Louis. I was kind of backdoor waiting to see if there was going to be a rebound. Definitely, probably should have scored. I'm not going to deny that. Really wanted to score very badly. My thought process was shoot it as quickly as I could. I think he probably made a pretty good save. I watched it this morning. I definitely had more time than I thought. But Jags, like Preve said, made some huge saves and took us to the shootout. And no better feeling than winning on the road for sure.
Well, one thing that the overtime did bring is a shootout. Normally you go through 5 skaters. Generally it's decided. Didn't happen that way. Had to go to a triple overtime. Craig Simchuk ends up picking up the win for Columbus on the goal, so gets the game winner, and the Snakes get their first win. 2 points for the Snakes for the first time this season, and give them a nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I know one thing that it does feel, there's a certain amount of get the monkey off your back as a coach. I know that if Pish was here, we'd be hearing him say what he feels, but you're here instead. monkey off your back now, and is it after a bit when you have, I remember you've been through this last year, almost identical, except for the OTLs. I mean, they were just straight losses. We were losing games. You look at it from the point of, all right, here we go again, and then behind, there's a little voice behind you, don't worry about it. Remember last year we ran 13 straight after that and set a, tie a league record, etc. But with the now with the monkey off your back, less pressure now that you cracked the bubble, Coach, or is it still back to get out there and have to dig as hard as you can and hopefully get a streak on the other side started?
There's still lots of work to do. We knew coming into the year with so many fresh faces, and when you take players like Matt Gingera and Nelson Archibald and Bryce Williamson and Chris Baylor and Mike Switzer, when you take those guys out of the equation and you're trying to find players to replace them, it's going to be a long process, and that's what we just got to do. The players, we got to instill in them just to trust the process that we're going through here. We're getting better each game. I think we have yet to put together a full 60 minutes, and it's the 3, 4, 5 minute lapses that we take that end up shooting ourselves in the foot. And once we can eliminate those brain farts, if you will, we're only going to get better. The other night in the coaches' room, we were joking because the players, after every win, they play a win song, they call it. We stick with it every year. And we were saying, maybe that game it should have been the Taylor Swift "Shake It Off" song. Hopefully the players from here on out will. It's funny how confidence can play a large part in hockey, and hopefully this builds a little bit of confidence in the room.
I know Shannon Zebedas was in Canada, had a previous commitment, had to go back to the Great White North. And you guys had to sign up Andrew Lowen as an emergency backup goaltender. How was it having Losey back out on the bench with you?
Personally, I love when Loey's around. He's a special guy, and he really loves life. And it's good for the young guys to see that too, because even though he's not playing hockey anymore, he's still a really happy guy, and he's always finding the best in every situation. So to not have him on our team this year, it's been tough, but it's always nice when he comes around for sure.
And of course, we got to talk about Jagger. I mean, Jagger, comes in, and he had the win last night. Stan Real Sharp actually in the shootout did very well. Actually, Bartos as well. But talk about Jagger's performance over the weekend.
I think Jags played great. We'll just talk more about yesterday's game, I suppose. But in the shootout, he's tough to score on. He tracks the puck really well. He's a little goalie, but he's super athletic. So I think he's pretty well suited for a shootout. He told us that he loves shootouts too. So I don't know if he likes the ones that we do in practice, but he definitely likes the ones in games. And it's a kind of a breath of fresh air having him back there. He can play the puck really well, so it's a lot easier on us defensemen sometimes. He'll make that first pass, so we don't have to come all the way back and do it. So we haven't really had that the last couple of years, so it's kind of nice to have him back there doing that.
Preet, one thing I think about too, Shannon is not. Weight-wise she's a bit different, but size-wise or height-wise, she's actually an inch taller maybe than Jagger, or they're very close.
They're very similar height-wise.
When you generally you see a team, most teams, if they have a small goaltender, their backup is pretty much sure going to be the big goaltender. Do you think down the road that has an issue for the Snakes? I mean, not to say that you're going to do anything about it, but if you're going to make a switch with a goaltender or whatever, I mean, the other team's looking basically at the same target, so to speak. Does that make a difference in hockey anymore, or is it my imagination?
As long as they can stop pucks, that's the biggest thing. If they can stop pucks, it doesn't matter how big or how small they are. And Shannon's proved that she can stop pucks. Probably one of the better technical goalies in the league as far as positioning and controlling her rebounds. And I think that's one thing that Jags has to still learn a little bit. He's a very active goalie. His movements, I think he needs to control them a little more. Sometimes he'll make the first save, then he gets so out of position that next save has got to be an extremely acrobatic, overly exciting save, whereas if he just kind of controlled himself a little better on the first save, he wouldn't have to be so dramatic making that second save. So, and that's a learning process for him coming from college to the pro level, and hopefully he can make that adjustment sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I remember one of the biggest listening to Pete Peters when he came down here when he was with the Oilers, working with Mikey Morrison when Mike Morrison was with us. I remember him talking about it was not necessarily about having to move quick, but it was the economy of motion and the angle. And I mean, he was just very like Zen-like about those two things. And I mean, that's almost on the less is more, I guess, for a goaltender. And I know you're not a goaltender, whatever, but guys, when you see a goaltender that's kind of doing he's flopping or he's doing this and jumping back over across, distract you a little bit as a defenseman back there? Does that change the style of game, Kyle, that you and Andy more or less play?
I mean, for the most part, you'd like to have confidence in your goaltender. I mean, I don't think we'd ever really want somebody that's flopping around doing a bunch of crazy stuff, but I think for the most part, our goalies are pretty technical. I mean, coach is right. Sometimes Jags gets a little bit out of it, but that's just a learning curve type thing. So, but of course, you want to have confidence in all your teammates, and a goalie's no different. It's probably even more important to have confidence in him. And right now, we just got to get them a few wins that they've deserved that we haven't gotten them. So we have to get their confidence up as far as ours too.
Yeah, we have absolute confidence in both goalies. Our job is to keep the shots from the outside and make sure there's not a second or third opportunity that they have to, make scramble saves. So I think if we clean that up, it'll make life a lot easier on them.
Well, nonetheless, it's 2 points, and it's the first win, monkey off the back for the Columbus Cottonmouths, and you'll be able to kind of have it this week. I know you had a very rare Monday off. Kyle, what'd you guys do? I'm sure it was to the gym and do all the things you have to do naturally when you guys are keeping in shape, but it was kind of nice having a day off on a Monday, and I think I can't even think of the last time you guys had a Monday off.
This might actually be my first Monday off in 3 seasons, so it was pretty exciting. We woke up really early, feeling great, feeling refreshed. We went to the gym, did a nice team bike ride downtown, and then we all played 9 holes, so it was really good.
You did golf today?
Yeah.
Who was the big winner?
Probably Andy, but I'm kind of just starting, and I had a really good day too, in case anybody was wondering.
Andy, how about you? I mean, on the golf course today, I mean, it must have been a little tough. You played a weekend, you got the workout, the vigorous workout on, and then of course the bike ride downtown. Then you did 9 holes. I know that's why you guys didn't do 18. But talk about your game.
We actually played a 4-man scramble. It was really fun. I think we had the low 31 on the front 9 at Maples, so we played pretty well. It was excellent.
Did your team take the gold medal?
We did.
Yeah, you got the gold medal. So
Whatever.
3 stars of the week, Louis Belisle. Belisle notched at least a point in each game over the weekend, a 2-goal effort on Tuesday on the loss against Macon, and an assist on Friday and Sunday. Kyle Shapiro. Shapiro was the only other Snake besides Belisle that cracked the score sheet in each of the 3 games over the past week. 1 assist on Tuesday and Friday and a goal on Sunday. And then Andy Bathgate had a pair of assists on Tuesday and an assist and the game-tying goal on Sunday. So Andy Bathgate, Louis Belisle, and Kyle Shapiro are 3 stars. Let's take a look at the upcoming games for the Snakes. Friday, it is back to the friendly confines of the Columbus Civic Center as the Cottonmouths face off against the Fayetteville Fire Ants. It would be the first of 7 meetings this season between the two teams. Fayetteville will enter Friday's contest with the fewest losses in the league, and they currently sit at 5-1-0. The Fire Ants are looking to return to the SPHL playoffs after sitting out last season, just a year after winning the SPHL regular season title in 13-14. New head coach Jeff Bess, and the players like former league MVP Josh McQuaid and veteran forwards Nick Lazarco. Berkeley Scott, a former Knoxville player, is now skating with the Ants, and that's a little bit of probably a big part of their success. The Snakes will be in the community. The Snakes will be at Northside Elementary from 8:30 to 10:30 tomorrow morning. And then a few Snakes will be at Hardee's in Midland from 5 to 6 tomorrow. And a few of them will be attending the Columbus Youth Orchestra Fall Festival in the River Concert from 7 to 9 p.m. This Friday, it's Boomer's birthday bash and a food drive benefiting the Valley Food Bank. Boomer is asking that his friends, in lieu of gift, bring donations for feeding the Valley Food Bank. So pretty busy weekend for the Snakes. You guys are going to be all over the place here, and nice to get a day off on Monday, but having to do some things on the Tuesday after practice and getting involved in the community. But that is what it is all about. Talk about Fayetteville. This is a much improved team coming in, and I know that Bess is a good coach. They're hungry over there. They kind of had the season last season they didn't want to have. I know they had made a coaching change early in the season and then have to do what they've got to do. But talk about Fayetteville, what you've heard about them. I know you probably haven't seen a lot, but what you heard about them brief and the style of hockey that they bring to town.
They're definitely the most improved team from the teams we were playing last year. They're going to be big. They got a lot bigger this year. They're going to be kind of an in-your-face style of hockey team. They're going to have a pretty decent power play, that's for sure. So we got to watch the penalties we take. It's going to be not anything like playing Fayetteville last year, that's for sure. With them last year, you would get them on the ropes and they would fold the tent and ready to go home. But Friday night will be a good test for us. We haven't been ran out of the rink yet. We've been with every team we've played so far. We can hang with anybody. So it'll be a good test Friday night to play one of the first place teams.
Last year, to say the least, they did have kind of a murderer's row, so to speak, of physical guys that were a little bit, over the top or could get a little bit get nasty. Have they toned that down a little bit, or they still got that?
They still got some guys that'll drop the gloves. That's for sure. But the players they brought in to do that are pretty decent hockey players too. They're not just there for one reason. So from what we've seen, on paper and the little bit of film we have seen on them, they can play any style of game. They can play a good hockey game if they want, but if you want to, set stuff up for a street type game, they'll play in the alley too.
Goaltending too for them. That's been their Achilles heel. They really haven't had the goaltender. They're championship team, yes, but that kind of went by the side. Talk about their goaltending as far as you know.
They got that Bonner kid back in that was there for parts of last year. So he's a bigger kid. He wasn't the greatest last year from what we saw, but he didn't have much of a team in front of him. This year they really cut down their shots against. So he's had a chance to see the puck a little bit more, and when you got a good team in front of you, it's easier to look better yourself as a goalie.
Well, here we go. It's time now for the Snakes to return to Knoxville. It's a very, very difficult venue to play, and that's on Saturday after the Snakes entertain Fayetteville. Take the 5-hour ride up to Knoxville, and the Snakes will have an opportunity to kind of maybe get a chance at avenging the 4-2 loss earlier in the season against the defending champions. The Snakes were defeated 4-2 in the first game between the two teams on October 24th. Costs a little bit different. Snakes have some different players. The game is actually the first of a home-and-home series between the two teams, as the next game for both teams will be November 24th, when the Axe Bears travel to Columbus for the first time this season. And playing in his 405th game, that's hard to believe. I remember this kid when he came here, Jason Price. He broke former Cottonmouth Orrin Hergott's SPHL career game played record as the Snakes in a Snake sweater. Price actually started his SPHL career in Columbus for 2 seasons before playing in Richmond, Augusta, and then arriving in Knoxville on 13-14. Price is also a model of durability, and he has played in every regular season and playoff game for his team in 4 of the past 6 seasons. So Price is one of those guys, a classy kid too. You know what, Andy, I know you don't know him that well, but when you play against him, Price is one of those guys that, he's got talent. He's still good. He's been around for a while. He's a veteran. He means a lot to Knoxville.
Yeah, no, he's really effective out there. He's big and rangy, and he doesn't make very many mistakes, and he'll jump up in the play too. And definitely a guy you have to keep your eye on. He can make things happen.
And another thing too, Kyle, this is your time. I don't know how it was the first game that you were in Knoxville in that area that we hang with the low overhang. You're a guy that's got to watch his head. You might hit a screw that they stuck in there up there in the dressing room, or outside the dressing room. But did you have a chance to kind of get the guys to know what Knoxville is to us, or did they pick that up in that 4-2 loss, and now maybe coming back against them, and particularly having a home and home where you're going to be there and get them there to do what you said? You don't have to pump me up for the rivalry against Knoxville. I know what it means, but there's a lot of new faces there that don't.
You know what? I think it has a lot to do with Knoxville's arena. The way you're forced to play in that on that ice surface, because it's so small, it's kind of just a crash and bang type game. So I think no matter what, every time you play them in their barn, it's going to be a heated battle. Their fans are actually really great. They're really loud and they're really passionate. So every time you're in there, it's a good game, and it's always crashing and banging and fighting in the corners and stuff like that. So yeah, like you said, you really don't have to get me pumped up to play Knoxville, and I'm pretty sure the other guys realize that too.
Andy?
Yeah, actually, I love playing there. Like Kyle said, it's it's a fast pace, it's physical, it's hostile in there. It's they love to hate you, we love to hate them. It's really fun. I enjoy it.
Well, that's a game that, again, if you've never been to Knoxville, it's one of those rinks that's very small, no room hardly behind the net. It's really a lot of caroms. They love to just throw it in front any way they can and just bank it in, charge it in, tip it in, whatever it goes. There's always a lot of action. For you guys as defensemen, I mean, I have to tip my hat to you. That's got to be one of the roughest assignments, because you have to decide whether you're going to bite and go to somebody or come back and stay in the middle. And if you just make one step or a half step, it's enough for them sometimes to just chip it right by you, and they get that guy coming in on the back door.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one playing in Knoxville, just because every shot you take is a good shot. So they're trying to shoot from everywhere, and then as a defenseman, when an opposing team shoots on you, you have to turn around and track where the puck is gone. So automatically your back is turned to the player, whereas he can see the whole thing happening. So it's a lot of little adjustments, but when such a small surface, when it's super easy to shoot like that, you just got to make sure that you're in between the puck and the net at all times.
And talking to Bish, prior to that loss, it was a 4-2 loss. Really, it was an open net goal that they scored at the end of the game that kind of made that separation. But other than that, a very close game. And Bish thought, talking with him and Prefa, that you guys should have took the win there. He said you had a lot of chances, and it just was one of those things that the puck bounced Knoxville away, and then that decision at the time to pull the goaltender out, just having to be up, you lose possession, they come down and bury one.
Yeah, it's we were in that game from start to finish, and by all accounts, that was because it was the first game of the year, and for a lot of guys, obviously, that was their first time in Knoxville. It was totally new to them, with the exception of a few guys who have played on rinks that size, but that size of rink isn't very common for guys to see, so now that they know what to expect and have been on it before, hopefully when we head back up there, it's I wouldn't say an easier game, but hopefully guys will the chances that we do get, and they realize that like Kyle said, that anywhere inside the blue line, even outside the blue line, is a good shot. So we just need to shoot the puck and kind of take a page out of their playbook and just crash the net. Anything can happen in that rink, and if you don't crash the net, not much will happen. But if you crash the net, your chances of scoring a couple of greasy goals are pretty good.
Yeah, and again, it's a defending champs. Not to mention, it's a rivalry between Columbus and Knoxville. You don't have to get pumped up. Everybody wants to take your head off when you're the defending champs. I mean, it just seemed to rise to it. We want to beat the champs kind of thing every time we play them. So they'll have a tough road to hoe. And I always said in hockey, it's I think it is the hardest sport to go back to back, to win 2 championships back to back. That's already a dynasty in my opinion, because of the playoff schedule and the regular season schedule. You have to maintain injuries, etc., and we all know what that means. So hopefully the Snakes get a leg up on Knoxville on Friday night. Well, it's time for our Riley Heating and Air question and answer period, brought to you by Riley Heating and Air, cooling the Snakes and warming your hearts. Riley Heating and Air. So raise your hand if you have a question. And oh, by the way, am I thinking this right? Does somebody have a digit turning on their? Is it your birthday? 12. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice happy birthday round of applause for Kyle Johnson, whose birthday was November 12th. You weren't here for that, so we had to throw it out there later. But if you have a question for Coach Kyle Johnson or Andy Williger, just raise your hand and we'll bring the microphone to you. So here we go.
Well, to a 12th birthday from 11th birthday, November 11th.
Oh, nice.
This Macon thing, you guys are going to find out that it's a challenge. We used to have to line up against the way where you walk in and out that aisle there to keep people from throwing things at you. It's a challenge for the fans that most of us still remember. I can remember Derek Crimmon's mother, somebody threw a little popcorn on her, so she poured her Coke on the lady. So you're going to find that this is going to be a heck of a challenge. And the other thing, whatever you want to say about this year, we're 3 points better than we were last year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for saying that. And as far as the Macon rivalry thing comes, bring it on. We'd love to.
That is a funny thing because a lot of people, like I say, the players don't really remember Prefontaine in the crowd or some of the fans and how it used to be, whatever, but they will by the time this is all said and done. Still got another 5 games to play them back and forth. Okay, questions for Coach Kyle Johnson, Andy Williger. All right, we'll be auctioning off Kyle Johnson and Andy Williger night. No, just kidding. But if you have a question, just raise your hand. So, guys, I mean, here we are. We're at TGI Fridays. Just want to get a couple of announcements out as well. Opelika.radio.com. You can get your games home and away, and that is the audio. You can just go to any computer or on your phone and hit Opelika.radio.com. There's a player there. Just hit the arrow, and it'll automatically play into wherever you're at. You'll be able to get Opelika.radio.com's coverage of Cottonmouths hockey, and that's both home and away. Also here at TGI Fridays, Thursday nights, they have a live band coming in on Thursday night. So if you have a chance to check things out here at TGI Fridays, come on down and check out live bands on Thursday night. And once again, our promotions for this Friday night, check out the Columbus Civic Center as the Snakes entertaining the Fayetteville Fire Ants. It's also Boomer's birthday bash and a food drive benefiting Feeding the Valley Food Bank. Boomer is asking that his friends, in lieu of gifts, bring donations for Feeding the Valley Food Bank. So if there's no more questions for Coach, don't forget, you can catch the game right here on OpelikaRadio.com. This Coach's show will be rebroadcast for any of the folks that want to listen in or tell folks about it. Some of the parents I know like to get a chance at listening to their sons on the Coach's show. So Tuesday night, and then it's also available on YouTube on demand, be downloaded tomorrow as well so you can see it. Well, that'll wrap it up for us here at TGI Fridays. Thanks so much for being with us. Kyle Johnson, Andy Williger, head coach Brad Prefontaine, and our director of fun and hardest working man in the office, Barney Slayton right there. Barnyard. Don't forget, if you haven't got...
Go Snakes, go Snakes, go Snakes, go!
And thanks for being with us here at TGI Fridays. Good night, everybody.
Hey, Brad, I got a